We are literally just a couple of minutes away now. So excited for everyone to join us. As I mentioned before, this is Garrett Gunderson. I am the Chief Wealth Architect here at Wealth Factory. Been doing this for a lot of years, but so excited about it because it's just something I've been passionate about, something that's made a ton of sense. And I know it's a world that a lot of entrepreneurs look at as complex or confusing at times, but tonight it's about bringing simplicity into your life. It's about bringing money into your life, and we've got a great co-host in Mike Gandolfi. So glad that he's joining me here tonight. So, Mike, any words before we get started here, pretty quickly?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Garrett. Pretty exciting to have over 2,000 people register for this event. So obviously you're touching on some key aspects that, are going to hit some nerves here, maybe challenge a few people tonight, provide them tremendous amounts of value. I'm just excited, and I can tell you're excited because you want to get started before it's time to start. You can't help yourself, can you?
I know, man. We're still respecting the time, giving everyone a chance to get on. As I'm watching the attendees just click up one after another, like watching kind of when I'm sitting there at the gym at CrossFit and it's timing something, just watching it tick up more than one a second most of the time, just popping on. So welcome. We're so excited to have you. So glad that you're investing your time and investing in yourself, increasing your education, but really increasing your output, because this isn't just going to be about information. This is going to be about practical things that you could do to improve your life financially immediately. This is going to be about cutting out so much of the misinformation, getting right to the point, and dealing with areas that most people just don't talk about because they don't get compensated for it. So, we're gonna geek out, but we're gonna do it in a way that makes sense to everybody that's on board. So we are actually at the top of the hour now, Mike. So I think
It is.
that
Yeah,
time to
yeah.
get started.
It's time to go. So I'm going to be the host tonight. Welcome, everyone, to the Wealth Factory. This is Dr. Michael Gandolfi, and I'm here tonight with my good friend and fellow Chicago Bears fan, Garrett Gunderson. Say hi again, Garrett.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Like I said, man, there is like thousands of people who registered for this event. I'm so pumped for tonight because Garrett's going to be here to share with us for you to learn how to lower your taxes, which is kind of, I'm the poster boy for the Wealth Factory on that aspect. How to eliminate your debt, how to grow your wealth 10 times faster. Big statement, but you know what? Based on the statistics of Garrett's system, that's fact. And to do this without painful budgeting or limiting your lifestyle, that's the theme for the night. We're going to rock it out and change your world. That's what it's all about tonight. So even though it sounds like a bunch of hype, it's not. And so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm getting excited. I started waving my hand about to knock my headset off. Let me tell you a little bit about my position so you can understand where we're coming from with this. I'm a chiropractor. I've been coaching and training chiropractors with the Chiro Academy for the past 20 years, so I've been helping small business owners grow their business. And actually, about 6 years ago, it was 2009, I was out doing a seminar in New Jersey, and I was presenting. And I got done presenting, and the new guy was coming on. His name was Garrett B. Gunderson. Never heard of him before, so I thought I'd hang out and listen to him. And so Garrett came on board, and immediately I realized that I had issues that I didn't know about. Maybe I did have issues I knew about, but he was the solution, or definitely had the solution for me. Because not that much earlier, probably a few weeks prior to the seminar, my accountant was giving me some feedback that, hey, Mike, you know what? You had a great year. You had a rocking year, and that's the good news. The bad news is you're going to owe about $120,000 to the IRS, which was a problem because wherever I put my money, I mean, certainly I had some cash, but not $122,000 laying around because, investing in a 401k, investing in real estate, it wasn't liquid for me. I couldn't like just pull it out and write a check for $122,000. Man, I was stressing out big time. So it didn't take me long at all to be convinced that Garrett's program, and at the time when I joined, there only was one program. I joined his Freedom Fast Track program. It was 25,000, but I'll tell you what, it was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life because literally within a matter of weeks, I got the help that I needed. I saved $102,000 on taxes. And I mean, they did all kinds of cool things that I'd never heard of, and my accountant never heard of. And the really funny thing about this process was I searched out a high-level accountant. I searched out a company, McGladrey. I wanted the top accountant. I paid high dollars for this guy, and I thought he was doing a great job. I mean, we'd go to submit our taxes, and okay, we're going to write off this. We're going to write off some of your car, Mike. We're going to have your kids clean the office. We'll do this. So, there's little write-offs here and there, but man, I got nailed because he really didn't know what he was doing. He really didn't know what he was doing for small businesses at all. And just right out of the gate, restructuring my corporate structure, doing cost segregation, we were able to turn this whole thing around, which was life-changing. I mean, imagine the relief. Just imagine the relief that you got a $122,000 bill that you don't know how you're going to pay for it. And in rides Garrett and his team and says, hey, you know what? Here's what we can do. And to relieve $102,000 right off the top is phenomenal. It's life-changing. So how cool is that? So, I want, and there's more to this story. I'll tell just a little bit more. Here's what's cool about it. A few years later, I got audited. Actually, 3 years later, I got audited. And I just love telling that story because it freaks most people out, as it did myself. And when I got the message that, hey, when I get this letter in the mail, I asked the accountant, what is this? He says, well, you're being you're being audited, Mike. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to jail. I know I'm going to jail because this all is just too good to be true. And so the really cool thing is as we went through the audit, line by line, step by step, there was really very little to do because we had all the documentation. And when we got done with it, we actually got another $5,000 credited after the audit. So this is rock solid stuff. It's amazing stuff. And this is what Garrett's going to bring tonight, just a piece of this that's going to affect you. So I'm going to be interviewing him. I'm going to be asking him the tough questions and how you can create financial independence 10 times faster than the average person. That's what got me into Garrett's program. It's rocked my life in so many different ways, and I know it's going to do the same for you. So with that said, let me introduce New York Times best-selling author, my friend, my own personal financial secret weapon, Garrett B. Gunderson. Welcome, Garrett.
Well, thanks, Mike. We use the B a lot of times because of lost passcodes or different. There's a guy, Garrett Gunderson, that has like a resume up for a website. But yeah, Garrett B. Gunderson, appreciate that. Honored to be with you. It was awesome meeting you because I was actually driving to Sedona to meet with a copywriter who is a client of mine. And I get this phone call from the person who introduced us saying, hey, we referred you to this guy, Mike Gandolfi. He's a big influencer and all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, cool. And then he's like, yeah, you guys have already saved him a bunch of money, and he's really happy, and he's now feeling more joy and purpose, and you should give him a call. You should get to know him because the team was working with you. I hadn't met you in person yet, and so gave you a call. We hit it off pretty immediately. We ended up at an event together shortly after that where we were both speaking, and it was kind of one of those things when you and I speak that whoever goes first, the other one has to change their presentation just a little bit because we definitely talk about purpose and profitability and enjoying life along the way and living wealthy. Maybe we use a little bit different terminology, but I've really enjoyed getting to know you. And then we find out that we're Bears fans. You get me a nice Gale Sayers signed ball, and then we spent a lot of time together. So that's what I think is really fun about what we do is we get to know a lot of people. We get to see the impact. It's not like some statement that comes in the mail to say whether we earn interest or not. We get to see. Not only do we get paid by you, Mike, I got to put more money into your pocket and have a lifelong relationship out of it. So I really appreciate that.
And I appreciate you because everything that you've done has been just so phenomenal for us, me and my wife. It really has impacted our lives, and I thank you for that. Now, I've got a ton of questions for you, but before we jump into that, can you fill us in tonight on what we're going to be covering? Give us a little overview.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to do it, but would you mind if we do just a little bit of housekeeping on that and talk about that along the way?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, first of all, my intention tonight is to give maximum value to people, to really make sure that you can reclaim cash that's rightfully yours, that you can improve your financial situation immediately, not overpay Uncle Sam. Yeah, we all have to pay taxes, but no one's required to tip the government, yet a lot of people just did that the other day, or maybe they even filed an extension. So I want to reduce that complexity. And for everyone that hangs out with us and stays, the extra time to the very end and interacts with us, we've got a special free gift for you. And really, this is a pretty cool gift because the last 2 workshops that we've done, we've had at least an hour additional time where we had to cut into breaks or have people come in afterwards to talk about this. It's really about maximizing and utilizing credit. And this is a really succinct guide that we're going to give you. I kind of look at it almost like a Cliff's Notes version of credit so that you don't have to go through a bunch of complicated information. And in the credit world, it's kind of like taking a test. And what we're going to give you is the legal cheat sheet of how to pass that test. And so for anyone that runs a business and owns a business, I got to tell you, credit is critical because you get to buy things at a discount when you have good credit. You can go get better interest rates and pay Wall Street and the banks a whole lot less money. And even in today's world, you can lower your insurance rates. So I want you to be able to shave off the time it takes to pay off loans. I want you to get access to money that other people that don't understand credit don't ever get access to. And what I'm ultimately looking forward to in giving you this guide just for joining us as a gift is to put thousands of dollars back into your pocket, into your life. So look, I'm going to go through certain things tonight that the guide will share, but there's going to be plenty that we can't cover tonight, like how you can get more credit, how many credit cards you should carry, how to safely fix credit errors so you can get the very best rates and preferred treatment, which, by the way, it's kind of weird. If you have any past due bills that came or any negative marks and you try to bring it current, it actually hurts your credit score, and there's one thing you have to get before you ever pay some of that off. So this guide's my gift to everyone, and it's absolutely free for sticking around. And just to give you just 2 quick examples and kind of stories, I got an email just last month of someone that got the guide, and they said before the guide their credit score was 650, but they just did an initial search and they're now at a 728. So that was a 30-day period of time. Not too bad, they said. Also, someone who's been working with us for several years, I don't know, you probably know him, Mike, but his name's Chris Zano. He went to this guide, and he was able to cut the interest rate in half on his car loan, and he happens to have a Lamborghini, so that saved him thousands of dollars. Now, doesn't matter, not that everyone drives that kind of car, but it kind of applies to everybody. So your first question was, what are we going to cover tonight? More money without working harder. It's that simple. Paying less tax. Reclaiming money that's rightfully everyone's that's on this call so that you could do what you want with it. And I'm not talking about having to kind of budget or cut back. I'm talking about doing this while you can simultaneously grow your business because there's money for you. And that's one of the side effects that we see. That's one of the most positive side effects that are out there, is that people end up significantly increasing the profitability of their business because they end up with peace of mind, clarity, and financial confidence when they get these financial things handled. So if this is what you're looking for, you're definitely in the right place. And this might be the most critical information you're exposed to in the next 12 months. Now, why would I say such a bold thing? First of all, I wrote a book that is pretty bold called Killing Sacred Cows. Anytime you kind of have a title like that, it's putting it out there. And I'll tell you what it covers. It covers the 9 financial myths that hold people back. But what it doesn't cover is what we're going over tonight, which is specific items that are going to improve your cash flow. But that book was really like key financial permission for business owners that allows them to succeed at a different level, to kind of crack that code of what's holding them back because of the way they view money and what they're told and taught from other non-business owners that really prevent them from being more productive. So tonight we're going into keeping more of what you make. And I look at that kind of like when I was a teenager, my first vehicle that I got was a 1975 Chevy pickup truck, a Silverado. It was brown, and that was supposed to be the color it was in, but it was always a different color brown because of all the rust that it had. And I remember one day driving it, and there was just gas spewing everywhere because there was something wrong with the engine or the carburetor, and all of a sudden there's gas leaking everywhere. There's also a slow leak because in the gas pipeline, basically, there was enough rust that some of the gas was starting to leak through it. So the problem is most people in the world of finance have those kind of leaks just like my truck had. But when they go talk to financial people, they're not expert in understanding the financial engine or the financial gas line or pipeline. Instead, they're just saying, hey, if you will put more gas in this vehicle, you can go further. But I had a kind of vehicle that got, gallons to the mile, not miles to the gallon. And unfortunately, too many business owners have the same type of financial picture. So I want to make sure that you fix your leaks first. And I'm going to share specific examples and give you demonstrations of how to do that. Because really what we've seen is you can have economic independence 10 times faster. That doesn't mean that you can get 10 times more revenue in your business because of this. That doesn't mean that you're going to have 10 times more in a retirement account in the next 3 to 7 years. What it means is that you'll get to economic independence where your investments or your expenses can even be reduced without having to cut back or sacrifice, so that you can have economic independence where you've got that monthly amount covered whether you show up to work the next day or not. And so what happens there is people can swing for the fences in their business. And by the way, we say 3 to 7 years, but we have people that have done it in less than 1 year. We don't kind of publicize that because it's so rare, but it is possible. But that depends upon you. So the good news is no one's having to wait 30 years. You can take home a lot more money. And look, I know some people are kind of thinking you already have a great accountant maybe, or someone that you really like, or you're related to them, or they've done right by your business. That's okay. We're going to talk about it's not just about the accountant, it's about the tax team, like an attorney or an engineer. Or you might even feel like you're too busy. And a lot of it's because a lot of coaching out there has great advice, but it leaves the onus up to you to go and implement it. We're going to talk about how do you get results in implementation that saves you time, especially in the financial world, because when things aren't handled, it takes a lot more time to get those dealt with, especially if a circumstance occurs. And I know that businesses face far too many surprises, and I know that we can transfer the risk that any of those surprises don't have to be financially devastating, and I want to make sure you get that tonight. And look, I know there's a few people that might be thinking, well, I'm not really financially savvy or not a financial person. That's okay. 80% of the confusion in finance, you're going to be able to eliminate from your life because it doesn't even apply to you. That's usually about foreign exchange trading or complex real estate transactions or what types of investments to get into. The types of investments we're talking about is money in your pocket by understanding what you're currently doing, not by having you do a whole bunch of new things that end up creating a whole lot of complexity. And so, look, if you pay kind of close attention tonight, I'll show you how to sidestep any of those pitfalls. And I don't care whether you feel overworked. Well, I do care if you feel overworked, but I know that even if you feel overworked or stressed, or if you feel like Uncle Sam has, taken way too much, actually, I want to know kind of how that's going. So whether it's Matt or Mick, maybe you guys could pull up a poll on this. And let's find out who feels like Uncle Sam's taking a little bit too much. So you can just answer the poll, and we'll make this a bit interactive right now. And we could bring these results up here in just a few seconds, or in a few minutes, I guess, and see kind of where everybody's at. But do you feel like you're paying more than your fair share in tax? So look, if you want to solve these issues, you're in the right place. So let's kind of, we'll be looking at the poll here really quickly. And I know that, it's a bad precedent that Mike asked me one question, and I just go off for a minute, but I just want to set the reason that you're going to want to stick around so that you can get your guide and that you can improve your credit, and by boosting your credit, improve your cash flow. And I want to let you know what we're doing here tonight really accounts for finding $890,000 on average into people's lives over the next 20 to 30 years. So there's a lot at stake. It's really important. Hopefully I won't talk too fast as they get excited about it, but that's where we stand right now. All right, Mike, I actually know that you're on, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit here.
I appreciate that. So a couple things here before we continue, Garrett. There is a ton of people still coming on board. So I just want to reintroduce myself. I'm Dr. Michael Gandolfi. I'm the host tonight. I'm going to be interviewing Garrett. And obviously this is Garrett Gunderson going through the process. Another thing, Garrett, too, is one of the questions I always get when I do a webinar or a teleclass is, hey, is this thing going to be recorded tonight?
Actually, yes, we are recording the webinar. But the Q&A session and the bonus at the end is only for live attendees. So this is a live webinar. We are really here. As you can tell, we're going through the poll. And as a matter of fact, you can even go to the chat box because that's open. And I encourage you to interact. Now, I can't see everything in the chat box, but my team can look at that, and they can even speak up or kind of let us know what's going on there. So why don't you go ahead and check that right now. If you can hear me fine, just go ahead and type yes in the chat box, and make sure that you've gone through and you've in the question box, sorry, you want to go in the question box and make sure that you've kind of answered the poll question, because we want to kind of give you an idea of where people are at. So I know that over 50% of people have already voted, and we have hundreds and hundreds of people on the call tonight.
Very cool. All right, great. One more thing before we get started. Garrett, I asked if you could bring something to the table, if you could offer something of value to our listeners, maybe one of your services for somebody who wanted to dig deeper based on the information that they're going to learn tonight. So is there anything that they can invest in, that they can purchase at the end, any value that you can bring to the table?
Well, you know, there's several things on that. So first of all, I have, you know, the free gift for everyone who stays on the webinar, but plus for anyone who wants to step things up a notch and get the quickest results possible, I'm giving a huge bonus for the first 13 listeners who respond to the opportunity we're going to talk about. So basically, you'll hop onto a virtual small group private mastermind with me and the other 12 that respond. I'll give you more details kind of as we go through this. But this is where you can ask me any of your toughest financial questions or your business questions that you're struggling with and that you want to get solved, and I'll give you everything that I've got. And this is something that we don't even sell, because the only way you kind of get this is through a private face-to-face mastermind. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's, you know, the most important thing is my intention is to give 30 to 45 minutes of extremely meaty content. I want to make sure that people get real insider secrets, hard-won insights that you know we've learned over the years, and actually doing what I'm teaching you to do. And if you understand the significance of what I share with you, if you grasp its enormous power and you feel like it's going to transform your personal income, your lifestyle, your peace of mind, then it only makes sense really to continue education. So yes, I'll give everyone an opportunity to get some really great tools and services that other entrepreneurs are using to slash their taxes, pull more money out of their business without working harder, and really build the foundation, have your business build wealth for you, not just be another job. So you'll have a chance for additional hands-on, personalized, step-by-step training, and we even have some real easy button solutions if you want the results. But don't feel like you have personally the time or expertise, or even an existing team to do it all yourself. So why don't we end the poll here in just a minute, so I can kind of get the poll results out to everybody, and you'll be able to see that. So let's see, who feels like 88% of people feel like they're paying more in taxes than they wanted to. So for the other 12%, the good news is we're going to be talking about how to more efficiently handle loans and have access to credit. We're going to talk about specific tips of how you can recover duplicate coverages or costs with insurance or hidden fees or commissions. So even if you feel like you got taxes licked, we've got plenty for everyone on this, even though tax is a big part of what we're talking about. So yeah, thanks for participating in the poll. I'm excited about that, and I'll now turn it right back over to you, Mike.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The poll is awesome. All right, so, and you're awesome. So just to make sure that everybody is clear, they're not obligated to buy anything, right? That's just for those who want to work with your team and dig a little bit deeper into the information they're learning, like I did when I went through the Fast Track program. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely, Mike. Yep.
All right. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this. Let's get this going. Let's get ready for something special. Sit tight, strap on your seatbelt, get your helmet on. Hey, turn off your TV, stay off the internet, turn off your cell phones, put away everything. I mean, no distractions tonight. Because listen, if someone was going to show me how to become financially independent 10 times faster than I ever dreamed, I would want to hang on every single word that they had to say and take tons of notes. So you want a nice, quiet, clean environment, get ready to rock this thing out. So you can be in a position, in a state of learning. All right, so Garrett, you've become the financial advocate for small business owners and entrepreneurs. How exactly did you get started in this?
Well, I started my first business when I was 15 years old. It kind of had to do with that 1975 Chevy pickup truck, because when my dad told me I was going to get it, I started to refurbish it. And he's a coal miner, and he started to bring surface vehicles home when the bosses would come in town. I'd help him clean those. And my mom worked at a credit union, so I started cleaning the repossessed vehicles there so I could sell them for more. And so I launched my first business that way, and I won the SBA Young Entrepreneur of the Year. That came with $5,000, and I guess unlike other teenagers, I was a bit of a nerd from the standpoint of I want to invest that money. But under 18, no one really wanted to help me do that because my mom would have to sign off as my custodian, and she's Italian, and my grandfather was an immigrant coming over from Italy to be a coal miner, and their kind of management of money, that method was more about putting money in coffee cans, burying the money in the backyard. So it wasn't until I was 18 that I finally had an opportunity to invest that money. I was in college, and I was talking to different people, whether it was professors, whether I used to work with the credit union on detailing their cars, so I asked that person what I should do, the president there, and he said, of course, put it in a CD, and that I did the rule of 72 and took the interest rate, divided it into 72, and I found out that was way too long for me to double my money. So I went and asked more and more questions, asked my uncle, because he was the wealthiest guy that I knew. He told me to put it in Novell stock, but my aunt pulled me aside and she's like, your uncle makes a bunch of money as an executive, and then he pisses it away in the stock market. So fortunately, she kind of saved me from that. But you know what? What happened was I started investing because they said, hey, the market in the 90s was just going up like crazy, and they were going to give me a conservative rate of 18%, and off a mere $70 a month, I could become a multimillionaire. Well, I found out through my thesis that I was doing in econometrics that there was a 98.7% chance of my plan failing, because it was inside of a variable universal life policy, which I call variable ugly life, or very ugly life, because basically it has such high expense, much higher than regular term insurance, and a bunch of fees in addition to the fees in the stock market. And when the stock market underperforms, then all of a sudden that account starts to get killed. So I just said, okay, I don't want to make the same mistake. I started asking more questions, get offered an internship to work in financial services, June of 1998. So then I started actually selling just straight mutual funds and different types of life insurance against variable universal life, since I was so adamantly that wasn't going to work. And I found myself in a situation in the year 2000 when the market was declining that I didn't want to go tell my friends and family. I didn't want to go tell my clients, which were parents of my friends and that kind of stuff, that they're just in it for the long haul. And I got labeled a fanatic at the firm I was working with because I was asking so many questions, and they just want you to tell everyone, oh, the market's on sale, or just you're in it, for the long haul, or dollar cost average, or the market's coming back, or all that kind of cliched crap that we hear far too often. And I did one of the toughest things in my life, which was I sat down with a mentor. His name's Stephen Harrop. He managed $5 billion in municipal bonds for Strong Investments. At that time, that was the #2 fund company in the world, and he was the #1 fund manager before he decided to become a professor and kind of retire from that. And I sat down with him, and he helped walk me through between March and May of 2000 to get every one of my clients but one completely out of the market and save them from losing a whole bunch of money. And at that point, I knew my education, I didn't want to have it through the school of hard knocks, of just following what the financial planners and advisors were teaching me and telling everyone else. So instead, what I did was I said, I'm going to aggressively get educated. And I started going somewhere once a month to get educated in the world of finance, and I sought out who are the best financial teachers, who are the best financial advisors, what are the best economic symposiums, and I was aggressive. And a couple of years into it, when I'm 22 years old, I hear about this guy, Vince, and I go follow him, and he didn't really want me to do it, but I kind of wiggled my way in, so let me be a fly on the wall, and we went into a family services firm. And my life forever changed, because it was basically, if someone was worth $50 million or more, they got this table of professionals, attorneys, accountants, investment advisors, fiduciaries, cash flow specialists, you name it, everything that's required to have a great financial plan, sitting at one table, listening to Vince's strategy to see if it could be implemented and if everybody could coordinate it. And I said, I'm going to make sure to build a family services firm, but for the entrepreneur, not for the people who are already wealthy. They've got to have all these advisors, because if they don't have the right team, then money gets lost, then problems happen, then unnecessary risk occurs. So that's basically how I got my start and how I ended up here.
Garrett, I think that what you're describing, your secret weapon, that team has been one of the most valuable things on the planet, for a small business owner, for an entrepreneur. I tell you, coming across that and having that in my life is all the difference in the world. I think you call that a closed door strategy of the ultra rich. I mean, something that the ultra rich, the super wealthy do that nobody even knows about. How did you come up with that model, and how does that model apply?
Well, really by going into that room and seeing what was going on, I was like, okay, this has to happen. Now, Mike, what I didn't realize is how difficult it was going to be to build that, to find people that subscribe to the same philosophy of wealth. They have a depth of expertise in one specific area, and they're willing to work as a team, that really it's their passion. It's what they do better than anyone else, and to find and vet those out. That was absolutely, it was so difficult. It took about a decade to do it. So really, when you think about what the wealthy people got, was they got simplicity. They got concise, condensed, direct information. They got kind of like the easy button, where these people were doing a lot of the heavy lifting and only bringing them the important information and scouring for the very best strategies. And, you know, in the last few years, I've met people that had that kind of wealth that we get referred to maybe because they're parents of one of our clients, or an entrepreneur that has a big exit and they sell their business, and so now they kind of qualify for that. And I think about some of the things that they get, but there's also some things that we're missing. Like, we had this guy that we worked with that was worth $500 million. Not our market demographic, not what we were trying to do, but one of our huge advocates and fans that's literally referred hundreds of people to us, referred us. You know, they never talked to him about enjoying his wealth along the way. And we got him to set up a Living Wealthy account, because even though he's making a lot of money, he wasn't doing anything to enjoy life and spend it on himself. Or we found other people in that situation that a very small portion of their portfolio was in the stock market or in a qualified plan like a 401k, like 1% of their overall net worth, right? Yet 90% of their financial stress was in that. But our belief is you never invest where you get scarcity or where you get too much fear, because you're the asset. And what we found was that person that had a small amount in their 401k, it was still a 7-figure amount. They were great at art, and they were great at wine. They knew how to purchase it. They knew how to make money with it. And we actually released them from that fear and scarcity by allowing them to invest in that. So yes, we do more and even some different things in some of these family services firms, but we really modeled it after that meeting where I walked in and saw what was going on. And it took a long time, but boy, has it been worth it.
Garrett, I have to tell you, I've been working with small business owners for the last 20 years, coaching them and working with them. And I'm just thinking here for a second, I know how much of a pain in the ass it is to work with small business owners. Why in the world did you choose to work with us instead of shooting for the big boys, you know, working with the big fish, working with the people who have like 50, 100 million in assets versus, you know, versus a small business owner?
Well, look, when you go into the people that are worth a whole bunch of money, there's also a whole bunch of headache. One is they've got pretty good teams in place. I'm not worried about whether they're going to be okay. They get the right type of advice. But business owners, they get atrocious advice a lot of times from people who are non-business owners, telling them to take money out of their business before they build up stability and safety, before they've created the liquidity that they need, before they've transferred risk, before they've built their infrastructure, before they have the right people or processes or automated procedures. And these people want them to just separate their money, lock it up for 30 years until age 59 and a half. And a lot of times businesses suffer and have really high interest rates and finance that. That's one thing. But the other thing is, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. And I was frustrated when I got my first accountant and my first attorney, and they disagreed, and they just decided to do whatever they wanted without that communication. It cost me money. I overpaid tax, and I had to deal with a bunch of filings for 6 years because of that mistake. So that's another issue. And here's the thing. If we worked with big companies instead of small businesses, we may not really understand who we're helping or how much of a difference it really makes. But when I'm dealing with someone one-on-one, and I'm helping them out, like I got a text from my friend Greg today. He was actually a personal trainer of mine that wasn't even a business owner when I met him, but was writing a book. And he's like, dude, it meant so much you don't even know, because now he's getting an ownership in a piece of a gym that he's part of. He went from, you know, not making 6 figures, making a small amount of money, to making 6 figures. And so I get to see the satisfaction and see the result and know that there's so much potential there. So I want to hear those stories, you know, and I'll give an example. We got a story from someone recently. It says, I've been working with Freedom Fast Track for only the past 6 weeks, and my results have been spectacular. I'm a professional and have owned my practice in the medical field for the past 24 years. Although I've attended other financial seminars and read other financial books and systems, this has been the most revolutionary for my life in such a short time for many reasons. There's a wealth of paradigm revolutionary for my life, of shifting information and videos produced by Garrett on the website, which has helped set the stage for my understanding and progress. With the volumes of mixed messages in society around our financial lives, there's so much confusion and misinformation about how to tap into the true power and become wealthy in all ways. Garrett and the team have done a great job breaking down the dysfunctional complexity to set of inspiring principles which make sense and have helped give new meaning and understanding of how the system really works. In addition, he says that on his first meeting with his cash flow specialist, he made several good suggestions, one which quickly saved him $3,400 in monthly cash flow. By the way, this is Charlie. You know who he is, Mike. You've talked to him as well. So.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So to get those I get fulfillment from that. That's reality. I get connection. I get to be part of something. I get to make money while making a difference. We go to those big corporations, it feels a little bit bureaucratic. We got to deal with repetitiveness. We can only help a certain number of people. I want to make a big impact. We want to help 1 million entrepreneurs get to economic independence. If I choose big companies, my mission actually gets smaller. My excitement gets smaller. I don't want to deal with that. I want to help the people who are most neglected that I relate to most directly.
Well, I can tell you there's hundreds of people on the line right now thinking that you chose small businesses instead of going after the big fish. So, I mean, there's so many different questions that are now starting to bounce off my brain right now that I want to ask you. Here's one for you. I constantly hear that business owners, when I'm coaching them and working with them, they're constantly bragging about what? Here's how much money I make. They're bragging about the revenues that they collect. And, that's not what you preach. What you preach, what I've learned, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep, which kind of sounds obvious, but can you explain this a little bit more?
We all know that revenue is a lot like the bicep. It's bragging rights. It's not the most functional thing. It's helpful, it's great to have, but what if that revenue, or even another cousin of that, is net worth? People have a lot of net worth, but there's people with net worth that go bankrupt because it's about cash flow. Who would you rather be? The person that has $5 million tied up, locked away, producing almost no cash flow because it's not liquid, it's not, maybe it's stuck in equity, or would you rather be someone that maybe only worth half of that at $2.5 million, but they've got $250,000 a year of income coming in year out off of those assets? I want to make sure people focus on cash flow. Great, focus on revenue, but also understand what's the bottom line. How much do you get to keep after you pay taxes, after you pay insurances, after you pay different interest rates to the institutions? How much do you get to keep? That's what we're going to focus on, because it's not, these business owners get kind of on a treadmill of they think if they can just earn more money, then they're going to be okay. But by earning more money, if they don't plug the leaks, they just run harder and don't get further as fast as they want. I want to accelerate those results.
Garrett, one thing I know is that in small business, cash flow is king. And I don't know if you know this or not, but going through your program personally, not including what we saved on taxes, but we have cut $3,400 a month, opened up $3,400 a month. Without increasing revenues, we've opened up $3,400 a month from our cash flow, which is so cool. And one of the biggest things with small business owners is we struggle with cash flow. All small business owners do. It's a common thing. And so one of the cool things is, hey, I got tremendous value from taxes, saved a ton. I got tremendous value from your team, amazing. But one of the best things I got is improving my cash flow. And it's like, I joined in 2009, so remember, that was when things were going down the crapper. And so we're trying to tighten up. I'm trying to save everything I can. I think I've got things as tight as I could, yet, your team, Dale Clark, what I call him the human ATM. I mean, he was able to find how, I don't know, but he was able to unlock $3,400 a month personally for us, which is massive when cash flow is so important. So you know what? You're a cash flow specialist. Your company specializes in improving cash flow for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Can you clarify? I think this is worth spending a little more time with. Can you exactly tell us what cash flow is and how that's different from net worth, and when it comes time to retirement? I mean, it's so critical, because if I was going on the pace I was going, I had retired with some money in my 401k and et cetera, but explain why cash flow is so transformational for these guys.
Well, let's start with the balance sheet. And if everybody just draws a box right now. You know, Mike told you have a pen and paper ready, and this is really, we're doing this. Draw a box, and draw a line down the middle of that box so it separates in two. And what I want you to do is draw a vertical line. And on the left side, I want you to write assets. On the right side, I want you to write liabilities. And when you have more assets than liabilities, or assets minus liabilities equals your net worth, right? And that's known as a balance sheet. And by the way, when you have more liabilities than assets, that's actually called debt. Most people call every loan they have debt, but debt's only a function if you have more in liabilities than you have in assets. So an example would be if I bought a $250,000 house and I had to, you know, I got it for $150,000 and I financed it for $150,000, but it was just a great deal. I just did my right due diligence and found it. I actually have $100,000 of equity, not $150,000 of debt. People erroneously call everything they owe debt, but debt is when you owe more in liabilities than you have in assets. So that's net worth. Net worth's important, but it's not the most important factor because most of retirement planning is all about building net worth. Why? So that in the future you can have cash flow. But if 100% of your focus goes into net worth, cash flow many times gets neglected and becomes problematic. So let's talk about cash flow. What is it exactly? All we have to do is now look at our income statement. So if we draw that another box, but now we have a horizontal line. So now on the top box, we would write income, and on the bottom we'd write expenses. It's simply income minus expenses is what our cash flow is, also known as profit, right? So income minus expenses is cash flow. Now why revenue is important but not the only factor is you could have a huge revenue. You could be making $20 million a year in revenue, but if your expenses are $22 million, that's a negative $2 million cash flow. That's the way that you go bankrupt. That's the way that you go into debt, right? So we want more income than expenses. And the way to get there is really three ways. Either one, you increase your income. Two, you decrease your expenses by cutting back and sacrificing. Or three, you reduce your expenses through efficiency. Paying less in tax, paying less in insurance without sacrificing coverage, finding hidden fees and commissions, exactly what we're diving into tonight. So what we realize is the financial industry is really based upon commissions, and because of that, they really want people to get assets under management and focus on net worth because they get paid higher commission the more money you have invested, and they want you to autopilot put it in there. Well, because we're results based, we can kind of just tell it like it is. We can say, hey, you know what? What if it's more important to go pay off a really high interest rate credit card that's charging you more than any of your investments earn? There's no commission in that, but there is performance for you, because what if you're only earning 5% on your investment? You pay off a 10% credit card. That's 100% savings for you, going from 5 to 10. If I bought something for $5 and I sell it for 10, that's 100% markup. So that's 100% return for you to pay that off. That's your level of savings. So, you know, I know that a lot of financial people aren't going to teach that, because if they do, they can't get paid. But we get paid on results and performance, not on commissions. So that kind of is the cash flow conversation, why cash flow is so important, because, you know, cash flow sure does help out a lot. It's the money we get to spend. It's the money we get to enjoy. It's the money that we use to build our wealth. And, you know, that's what our focus is.
Got it. So you were talking about other financial experts and advisement. And, you know, I have to tell you, you know, when I listen to Susie Orman, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. I mean, it almost turns my stomach now. And so when you talk about personal finance, the first thing I used to think of was like Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, or maybe, you know, when I'm thinking or talking to small business owners, where we think of, like, you know, using advice from Money Magazine or Kiplinger. You know, so when we're talking about the advice that they give, how can you compare and contrast that to the advice that your team does?
Well, it's really, you know, I will tell you, those guys do a great job at getting a train wreck back on track. They're gifted at it. But their entire philosophy is about cutting back. And no one saves themselves rich. No one shrinks their way to wealth. We're more about mindful cash management and expanding your means, being efficient with your money. So by focusing on business owners, we have a lot more tools to use than just qualified plans, than just cutting back and tightening the belt. So if you want to be told, how to live in scarcity, how to live off rice and beans, how to get a second job, as a business owner, the worst thing you could do is get a second job because you're neglecting your business. And sometimes the worst thing you could do is cut back because maybe that's cutting back on marketing dollars or a key employee, or you're not paying enough to people to retain them, or you're missing certain technology that will allow you to expand your business. They're not talking to business owners. They're talking to people that are overspending on what they make as a W-2 employee. So it's very different than what we do.
Got it. All right, so let's get into this a little bit. You mentioned you primarily work with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And, just like myself, and as you know, I have referred tons of my clients to you. In fact, Garrett, one of my goals is refer more people than anybody else to the Wealth Factory, because I know what kind of impact it makes. When I'm coaching and working with practices, one of the things that I'm really good at is I'm really good at growing practices fast. I mean, I can literally double their practice sometimes within a matter of weeks. But here was the weird thing that I was watching is they're increasing their revenues, but what I was finding was a few years down the road, guess what? They're in the exact same place that they were before. And so it was like, hey, it's really frustrating because they're really not getting anywhere. They're spinning their wheels. And so I started referring to you and watching these practices, just expand financially. I mean, just really get their house in order. One of the greatest things that you bring to the table is that peace of mind. So it's been a great asset to me. But one of the most common questions I get is, how much money do I have to make for this system to work? I mean, you have a step-by-step system that creates financial independence in 3 to 7 years. It's crazy, but it works. And so how much money, let me make this a couple-part question here. How much money does somebody have to make that work for them? And what about on the other end of the scale? This is really common because they say, well, Mike, I don't make as much as you do. I mean, I constantly hear this. It's like, well, I don't think this will work for me because I'm not in your kind of position. So, what's the minimum? What's the least amount a person needs to make to have total success with your system?
Well, I'll tell you this much. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, and just right here in Marietta is a school called Life, and Life University has one of our courses inside of the school. It's basically 6 videos of the 50 main videos in the curriculum, but I mean the results that they're getting to start building savings, to improve their credit, to finally get financing for their office, to know when they need to incorporate and what type of corporation to have. I mean, think about how advantageous it is to avoid those mistakes because they're starting so early. But the stats that we run and that we share are on businesses doing less than $500,000 gross annually, total revenue, and the average savings is $2,484 per month. I mean, that's the $890,000 over a career that I was talking about, and that's not even including tax savings, which is for 93% of businesses, $11,284 a year on average. So for us, it's not really about your income level, or it's especially not about the amount of assets that you have to manage or invest. It's about your mindset. It works best with people who are motivated to make changes. Obviously, higher income levels can help more because people can make different mental adjustments there. They have different things. I mean, I think about a guy that had 33 offices. It was like 28 physical therapy offices and then 5 chiropractic offices. We freed up $39,000 a month in cash flow. I think about another small business. We saved $457,000 of tax. Those are the extreme examples. But I also think about a guy, Jerry, who's just, literally less than 30 minutes from the headquarters of the Wealth Factory. We saved him $951 in tax. That was really low, but for him, it was a big deal because that was only one of 7 areas where we saved him money. So for me, it's, are you committed? Do you want to do something significant in your business? Do you want to handle these areas of your finances in your life? We want to work with people in the right paradigm. We're not out there asking, hey, do you have enough money for us to manage? Because we don't manage money. We're not asking you to roll your money over to us. We're asking to make sure that you get all your financial foundation set, all of your safety and security, you recapture your money, and you invest it back in your business. And we'll talk about our 5 ways of getting people to economic independence later on.
Okay, cool. The headline of this call tonight is lowering taxes. So you make a great big deal out of taxes. Yesterday was April 15th, a day that used to send chills down my spine, sometimes maybe inducing a little vomit on occasion. So can you tell our listeners why it's such a big deal about saving taxes?
Well, because first of all, a lot of accountants think in a way that, if I ask them, would you rather pay $1 million in tax or $10 million in tax? They would typically say $1 million, but $10 million means you earn way more money. So a lot of times accountants aren't production-based thinkers. They're reductionist thinking, and that reduction can reduce what a business owner earns over a lifetime. The second thing is, as we start in business, we grow over time, and sometimes we keep the same team, and they're just not equipped to handle things like, should we be on cash or accrual system? As we start to grow and build, do we need to change how we pay ourselves out of our corporation, or do we need to integrate a tax attorney? A lot of it is when you get a tax team, it's a big deal. I mean, once again, I'll give the extreme on the high end and then the low, and then I'll give some in the middle. Last year, we had someone that joined our program in November, and we saved them $675,000 in tax at the same time building their war chest through something called captive insurance. So that's different for a business that's doing over $3 million and can put away $300,000 a year. That's not the same strategy you'd use for a business that's just starting up. But a business just starting up, if they choose the right corporation, like maybe they are an S corporation, they can save self-employment tax, which is 15.3% on maybe half of their income. And I know that's one of the things that you did, Mike, and we helped you with. That's a significant thing. Or what if you haven't had another person look at your taxes for the last 3 years? By getting a second opinion or a second set of eyes, we find about 50% of the time you can get an amendment. You can get money back. I know on one of the slides we have a picture of my amendments that I got back in like 2000, I think it was from 2009 or something like that, because I brought a second set of eyes. And I'm in the financial game. It's just a matter of a lot of times in the world of accounting, this is where people overpay, and it's money that goes to the bottom line. And the money that you save on taxes is from your highest tax rate, not your lowest. So those are bottom line dollars. That's easy, quick results. I call that the lowest hanging fruit. So it's difficult for anyone, whether in finance or not, to keep up. And I just met with my accountant, early in the month, early in April, and without bringing any information from my tax attorney, I intentionally separated it so the two couldn't communicate for 1 year. And I wanted to see what difference it made. Bringing the strategies from my tax attorney, which was donation of artwork, because I know how, and someone in our network and part of the team knows how to acquire art from an art dealer where you get it at a massive discount, and after 2 or 3 years, you can donate it for the full appraised value, which I get back $2 in tax credit for every dollar I spent on it. So it's a pretty big deal. That saved me a substantial amount of tax. Then we started getting into a few other strategies that I'll talk about as we come up later, but I want to give some real strategies. We're talking about this. Hopefully people are getting excited because these are different ways you can save on money.
So, okay, let's just jump right to that. Time is flying by here, and I know you promised to show us some of the quickest ways to recover cash. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, let's do it. So let me dive right in. So taxes. Let me give you several things. Number one, be proactive with your accountant. Between April 15th and December 31st is your best times, is the time in between there to get the strategy. Ask them what you can do. Ask them if you're maximizing your tax savings. Ask them what tax changes there have been. If you own a building, you can ask them if they have an engineer that can help with cost segregation. We find 90% of them don't, but we have that on our team to bring in an engineer, and cost segregation saved you a bunch of money, didn't it, Mike?
A ton, 70,000 I think it was.
Right, so cost segregation lets you start taking faster tax deductions if you're a business owner with a brick and mortar building. So any commercial property, all of a sudden, rather than waiting 39 years, you start getting it now. Or if you set up a corporation, I know you weren't incorporated, even though you're making a lot of money because the accountant told you not to. But once again, a tax attorney or a corporate attorney would say, yes, incorporate, because you protect yourself from liability, and you got to pick the right corporation, whether it's an LLC in a partnership, or an S corp for an individual, or maybe it's a C corp for someone that's building a big, massive business with retained earnings. And having multiple owners, but you pick the right corporation, and how you take your income from that, called differentiating your income, impacts what amount of tax you pay. But let me give two really cool strategies that we implemented this year for the first time. One was, I own a cabin and I have a house. And we do events sometimes at either one of them. We do a thing called the Awakened Spirit Retreat up at the cabin, and I can rent that cabin out for 14 days of the year, or maybe it's 15, to my business. My business gets to tax deduct it, but I don't have to claim it as long as it's under the 14 or 15-day threshold per year. So all of a sudden I'm getting a deduction and getting some tax-free income on the other side, which, by the way, is awesome because it's not even being hit with FICA, FUTA, and all those kind of taxes. The second thing that is my home. We've hosted events like masterminds right after our workshops, or having dinners with different people that are in town that are in the program. I mean, we like to do that kind of stuff. What would be the cost to rent that out? We know because Google offered to film a commercial in our house, so it was kind of like, oh, we kind of know what that number is. Once again, that income can come in tax-free if it's under 14 days, and it can be a tax deduction for the business. Now, what I'm in the process of today is we're actually looking at our kids and saying they're age 7 and 10, and so what things can they do on a project basis? Because if we can pay either one of them $6,000 or both of them each $6,000 throughout the year, we don't have to pay taxes on that $6,000 through them, and we get to write it off for the business. So those are just a couple tax strategies. They're really big, but being proactive, thinking productively, looking back if you've missed any things in the last 3 years so that you can amend. I mean, I've given probably 10 strategies, but there's really 40 or 50 main strategies that we really go through and help people with. And look, if you don't mind, I'm just going to dive right into a little bit more meat and potatoes here because of what we've committed to. We've said, how do you boost your credit? Well, number one, you need to look it up. 83% of people in America alone, and the numbers are similar in Canada, they've overpaid interest because they don't have the right credit score, or they get denied a loan because they don't have the right credit score, or they have an error. So you need to look at your credit score at least every 6 months and see if you have any errors. Now, the things that make up your credit score most is your debt to income. So what I highly recommend everybody do is write down every loan you have, what's the balance, and divide each individual balance by its minimum monthly payment. We call this your cash flow index. And that cash flow index will tell you which loan to focus your attention on that will free up cash flow the fastest. So what it means is you pay the minimum to every other loan that has a higher cash flow index, only pay extra dollars to the one with the lowest cash flow index, and what it's going to do is it's going to improve your credit score by eliminating that loan, because for every dollar you earn, whatever percentage has to go towards loans, principal and interest, is considered debt to income. This is maybe the most substantial part of your credit score. So if you focus on just paying off the lowest cash flow index, it means it's the fastest one for you to pay off. It takes a little bit of consideration into interest rate, but it doesn't make it the only consideration. And here's a couple other things. You can even restructure loans if you improve your credit score. You can negotiate better interest rates if you improve your credit score. You could go and take a car loan that has equity, or a car loan that's paid off, and refinance that to pay off a credit card, because it becomes an installment loan in a car loan, where a credit card is known as a revolving loan, where revolving loans can actually lower your credit score, and an installment loan can increase your credit score. I know some people are really happy that we're recording this because I'm talking fast, but you're also happy that as you stay on, we've got that credit guide for you to maximize and benefit from exactly what I'm talking about here. And part of the opportunity at the end will be how you can recover cash and taxes and those kind of things. So I just want to give some real meat and potatoes here of things that people could implement or put on the ground right away.
All right. I mean, it's starting to sound a little bit overwhelming. You know what? How do you keep up with all this? As a small business owner, how does this keep, how's trying to get all this accomplished, not distract me from growing my own business?
Well, let me talk about kind of the way I look at it from a big program standpoint. I mean, when I created the Freedom Fast Track, one thing I recognized is business owners didn't have financial advocates, and they needed a financial quarterback to help them navigate all the different laws that are constantly changing, all the different moving pieces in finances, and they needed someone that could do a lot of that heavy lifting, so it didn't just keep happening as like this, oh my gosh, it's another thing on the to-do list. And as it keeps adding on the to-do list, business owners feel guilty. They feel stressed at night. They feel overwhelmed. They feel frustrated. And as they lose sleep, it starts to hurt their business because it invites scarcity in our life. And what I knew is if business owners could get their finances handled, their businesses would grow. But more importantly, they wouldn't feel as stressed. They would be able to actually lay down at night with some peace of mind, because we hear that word over and over from people. I think about this guy, Chris Brown, who said, for the first time I laid down, I had peace of mind after going through the program. I knew that's what was needed. I knew that people needed an accredited network, just like that family services firm that we talked about at the beginning, where it wasn't about adding items that they needed to do, but they had a network that could give them results and implementation and get it done for them and with them. I knew that that was part of it. I knew that it had to have a philosophy that was clear-cut, that people had to know exactly what a financial plan looked like and be completely aware of what was handled in their life and not handled in their life, and an emphasis on safety and stability and knowing that their business was their great asset and their ability to produce was the most important. And look, the way that I understood this so succinctly and clear, and I'm going to share it, it's a little bit painful to share, but I want to be really open with everyone. Look, it was June 9th of 2006. I was getting up to go work out that morning. Pretty early, I get a phone call on my home line. I don't even know my home phone number, so it's a little bit weird. I didn't answer it, but it's so early in the morning, it came on a second set of rings, like a second time around, like they hung up and they called back. And I was like, what's going on? So I picked it up. And it was my business partner, Mike, and he said, you know what? Our company plane left our event last night in St. George heading back to Provo. And no one's heard from the guys. So my two business partners, Ray and Les, were on that plane. I flip on the TV. I see a confirmation that plane had crashed in the Utah Lake. And you know what? I said at that moment, I want to make sure to preserve these guys' legacy. I'm going to do everything it takes. We had a radio show. I was back on that radio show 4 days after the crash. I immediately went to one of the widows and helped them out. We started organizing the funerals. We did everything it could. We kept all 42 employees. And I was like, okay. And so for 4 months, I worked hard in the name of someone else. I started neglecting my own life. I gained 22 pounds. My finances got a little bit out of hand because I wasn't managing and monitoring. I wasn't enjoying my life anymore. And you know what? It was during a trip in November. We were on our way to Thanksgiving to Price, Utah, a little coal mining town, driving in a Bentley, so we had everything that was an outward appearance of wealth. But as I'm talking to my wife, when we drive through this canyon, and we're going, and she's telling me things that, frankly, I love to hear. We have our best conversations on drives in the mountains, looking at the trees, seeing everything. There was snow glistening on the mountains. I was like, what a great day, I've been overworking. I've been leaving at 5 a.m. and going to our Utah County office, coming home. My 1-year-old son's already asleep. My wife's asleep most of the time. It was like life was getting a little bit out of hand. I was getting so clouded, I couldn't even make simple decisions. And what happened was I felt that overwhelmed business owners feeling times a higher amount because of this emotional loss of my partners. But fortunately for me, I'm driving with my wife, and she tells me that she thought I was an extraordinary radio show host, an extraordinary businessman, extraordinary at personal finance. Like, I loved hearing that. I was like, this is great. And then she looked at me and she said, but you're just an ordinary husband and father. And man, that hit me. And I realized that I fell into the trap of the working wealthy, that I fell into the trap of doing everything for everyone else and not taking care of myself and letting an overwhelming task list happen because I had a good excuse. I had partners that died. This was in the right name, but I started to lose my legacy. But you know what? I thought back to Les, one of my partners. A month before he died, we were in Pinedale, Utah, having a retreat, and then we were going to watch the movie V for Vendetta. That's back when it was. And he pulled me aside before he walked in the theater, and he said, you know what? I can't imagine life being any better. I love my life. And you hear that in Wealth Factor. We talk about building the life you love. And I was like, you know what? I thought about his words. I thought about my wife's words. And at that moment, I said, it's time for me to get clear about what's important in my life, what my legacy is about, what I'm doing for my family. I don't want to win the booby prize of helping everyone else out and sacrificing my life at the same time. So I got focused. I started to say, what needs to be done? And I'll tell you, I had such a financial mess for 4 months of not paying attention to this that I actually, for 1 week's time, got more done than most people get in 10 years' time. And so I want to share that story because whatever difficulties you've had, whatever finances aren't organized, whatever circumstances you faced, I know you can get to the other side of it. And I'll talk about how to do that as we kind of move forward here. And remember, I'm going to tell you how to get that maximizing credit and utilizing it. I'm going to make sure you get that guide for free. We talked about some cool things. We're going to also bonus at the end here. But Mike, I'm just going to pause and drink a bit of water and see if there's anything else you want to say before I go into that.
Sure. I think none of us want to hear that you know, hey, you're just an ordinary husband. You're just an ordinary father. And I think almost any small business owner at one point or other, we invest our lives into our businesses. And I know I heard that. I realized that I wasn't going on vacations with my family, etc. I mean, that's a sobering moment. So, you know what, for the listeners, how do we help them move to a life that they love? I want them to love their life. I want them to get serious about learning your tools and digging deeper. And you know, how can you help them more? What can you do to give them more guidance from you?
We have to help them save time, save money without sacrifice, and preserve legacy. So that completely focused week from Thanksgiving until December 3rd was transformative for me. So what I learned more than anything that allowed me to develop Freedom Fast Track and even get to the point we are today is I was a contributor, and anyone on this call is a contributor. You're out there to build value, deliver value. But we all have to be willing to have support, to have help. And you know what? One of the biggest opportunities for people is if they could become better receivers, because so many business owners just try to do everything on their own. We're rugged individualists. That's part of our nature. That's part of our DNA. That's part of why we get things done, but that's also part of why we get overwhelmed and why we get stuck. So as you realize you're overpaying on taxes, or you didn't know some of the strategies we shared tonight, which was, like I said, maybe 10 or 20% of overall of the strategies that are out there, or you think you might be paying too much on interest, which means anything above 5% you for sure are, or you're not sure whether you have hidden fees or commissions, which just the difference between if you had $100,000 invested over 30 years and you could get 10%, it grows to $1.74 million. If you have a 1% management fee on that thing, it goes all the way under $1.35 million. So it's more than a $400,000 loss. I want to make sure that you reclaim the money that's rightfully yours. So the big question is, as you've heard everything we've talked about, what are you going to do about it? There's even bigger questions to ask yourself, though. You are going to do something about it, right? Sooner than later. You don't need to wait for the death of partners or that critical conversation from your spouse. I mean, you know, let's recap. We've talked about you could restructure loans, recapture interest in that restructure, cash out underperforming investments and pay off high interest rates loans. There is a step-by-step process to improve your credit to renegotiate the interest rates. There is a specific way to save on taxes. You know, there are absolutely answer guides to your financial questions, and part of it's getting a second opinion on what you're doing right now, or finding out if there's something missing so it can get done. So the question becomes, what exactly will you do? And I guess I have two options. Really, I have two choices. I can hope you get it done. You know, hey, you listen, I hope you go out there and get it done. Or I can be proactive and rig the game in your favor, because there's so much more value to come and things that can be done in your life, more than just what we could do in this last 60 minutes. And I want to hand everything to you on a silver platter. Everything that we covered plus much more. And the biggest thing is I want accountability as part of this. I want you to have a live person to actually talk to. So should we go down the rabbit hole a little bit further? Do you want more cash in your pocket? I mean, go ahead and blow up that chat box or that question box. Go ahead and blow it up. Go in that question box. Type something in right now. Do you have a question? You know, do you want to get really good at making every dollar you earn count? Do you want to have a system in place that automatically puts more money in your pocket? You could go ahead and throw yeses in there. I don't have time to really go through all of them. Maybe Mick can kind of tell me if we're getting a whole bunch of response there. But I think you're going to love this opportunity, because it means it's more than just training and education. I mean, there's so much information out there. This is tailored. This comes with personalization, a personalized phone call, one that's judgment-free. I mean, you don't have to send in documents and social security numbers or any of that kind of stuff. And let me give an example. Cindy sent an email to me, and she said, through Nate, who's one of our lead cash recovery overview specialists, through Nate and I, though Nate and I were complete strangers in our phone conversation, Nate carefully listened to the summary of my situation and quickly honed in on my concerns and addressed my real needs to make some sensible recommendations that brought me to almost immediate sense of relaxation and relief. What was nice is that Nate did not judge me. He met me where I was financially, which is modest at best, and gave me permission to choose the best financial instruments that aligned with my situation in life. Instead of choosing flashy but riskier strategies, and that like everyone else does, it was invaluable advice. I'm grateful. Thank you for being a blessing in my life today. That's what we're going to talk about in this. Nothing else like this exists on the market. Why? Because I've looked for it, and it had to be invented. And it's something I focused the last 18 months of my life specifically on building it. It's called the Curriculum for Wealth, and it begins with a 25-lesson step-by-step course for you to build economic independence. But this is more like a lifelong resource than a curriculum. I know that curriculum almost sounds like a school. This is actually a framework to build wealth on. And it starts with recovering as much cash as possible and as quickly as possible. Yeah, it's filled with videos and transcripts and summaries and notes and audio, whatever it is that matches your learning style. We've gone through just every pain we can, whether that's Mick, whether that's Nordy, whether that's Matt, and the Builders at Wealth Factory to make sure that it's there for you. It's distilled. It's streamlined. We get that you're a business owner. Some of these are only 10 to 15 minutes, but they're packed with content. It's a step-by-step system. And yeah, those resources are great, but what I love is that cash recovery overview, which is like a home inspection for your finances, where you can get on the phone with someone. There's no pain. There's no embarrassment, because it really is about focusing on 7 different areas where we can find your leaks, where we can focus on your primary financial concern. Everyone loves the results from these. Nothing else is as quick and efficient to growing your wealth. I mean, this is absolutely guaranteed savings. I mean, the average tax and cash flow savings, you heard them before, $2,484 per month, $11,200 some dollars per year in taxes. Now, if you found value on the webinar, you can give this offer a try. Because why not save $894,000 over the next 20 or 30 years? I hope you like us more than you like Wall Street, or like us more than you like overpaying for Uncle Sam, because we immediately want to put that money back in your life. And so this is what I'm offering today. I can't guarantee that you're going to get the $2,484 from one overview call, but on the other hand, you might find a whole lot more. Like the extreme example I used before, where Dan found $247,000 of overpaid tax, or Steve found $39,000 in cash flow per month. This is step 1 out of a 5-step process. I know it may sound a little bit unbelievable. It may even sound, because I get passionate, like there's a touch of hype here. But you got to realize this is my life's work, and I've assembled the best team and the most incredible network. It's been the most painful thing for me to do, but I want it for my own life, and you deserve it in your life. I mean, it makes me think of my buddy Troy Dukowitz, who I know you know, Mike, where he was one day, he's like, I wish you could help me, but I know that it's just not possible. And we found him $1,200 a month. But then he came to an event where Jessica, Grace, Chris, and others were on a panel talking about saving $5,900 a month, talking about saving $83,000 in tax savings. I mean, going off, and he goes, I feel gypped. I only got $1,200 a month. Kind of in gist. I kept saying the whole time, don't expect these results. They're not typical. But what is typical is we improve business owners' lives. Their revenue goes up. Their peace of mind goes up. And their marriages get better. That's the crazy thing, is we're not marriage counselors, but we just see marriages get better because the financial stress is gone. So this lifetime resource is a part of our program. The one-on-one cash recovery overview is listed for $997 to the general public on our site. People that did not take advantage of seeing these emails or getting on this call or investing in their life like you guys did. And I got to tell you, it's worth, many times it's 10 times more than that. But there's Dr. Jerry Duggar. It was worth 100 times more for him, because he actually found a $98,000 strategy from his call that he did. And we actually put that on film. So one more example of the cash recovery overview. This is another person that talked to Nate. Since talking to you, setting my priorities to reduce my debt using the cash flow system and increasing my income, I'm set to reduce payments on 2 credit cards from $825 a month to $170, bring up $655 in cash flow. Before I would have just looked at the highest interest rate and pay that card down. You guys rock. Many blessings. So that's pretty cool. So look, you not only got the education and team, you get those both. But now for a bunch of killer bonuses that I just want, look, I hope to wow you with these bonuses. I mean, I want to give you way more than you expected since you invested time with us tonight, and you're part of our tribe, you're part of our subscribers, you're part of this mission to get 1 million entrepreneurs to economic independence, and this is the starting point. It's a way for both of us to get to know each other. For people out of the US and Canada, this is probably everything we offer that applies to you is what we're talking about right now. Others that have much more money than they do time, and want an easier button, we have a team and we can do a lot more heavy lifting and you kind of progress with us. But we love to get people plugged in and start here and then build a win-win relationship and find out who's the perfect fit to move forward. This Curriculum for Wealth package is valued at $997, but I'm also going to bonus 3 to 5 high-impact cash flow breakthroughs in 30 minutes or less each week, which is called Build. I mean, Build rules according to Joshua. Joshua sent me an email. He said he just got his newest edition, signed up on the first day he got the mail. He's happy with the newsletter and has already created far more value than cost. The cash flow index was awesome. It's been such a useful tool. So, I mean, that was just from the first edition. I just read the new one that's coming out. It is so awesome. I was bragging to the whole team about it. I mean, this is about taking 30 minutes in a week at most and having major breakthroughs that improve your life. Money in your pocket, taxes you don't overpay, cash flow that you improve, identifying where people are overpaying for insurance. We just found, Glenna just came to our event last week. We found her $1,000 of savings and got her $1 million more of coverage on her car, home, and liability insurance. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we focus on. So that could be $397 individually just for Build, just for that weekly publication. But what's cool is there's no strings, there's no monthly subscription fee, there's no automated. This is a one-time investment that we're talking about right now. And another bonus I'm going to give you is a digital version of Killing Sacred Cows, since I mentioned it earlier. Look, for me, it cost me like $1.3 million to build that from mistakes and lessons, but it's yours free as a bonus. And I know you could probably get it on Kindle or go purchase it for anywhere between $10 and $20, so we'll put a $15 value on that. I think those are pretty big additional bonuses. But the big one is that I am so excited to release our accredited network on videos from my private vault. They're not for sale anywhere right now. For any price, you absolutely can't get to them. At one time, we did release them for $497, and we got such amazing feedback. I mean, but I was like, man, what do we do with these? This is our whole network. This is like everything, and it's got transcripts and short workbooks. So you can find out what are the other 40 tax strategies. That's in one of the videos. You know, you can find out so much more about cash flow than what we had a chance to cover tonight. And the final bonus is the 13-person mastermind with me, 2 hours virtually. And look, the last time we did a 13-person mastermind in person, it was at our Wealth Acceleration Workshop. And Brian actually sent me an email. He says, I've been an FFT member for only a month, and it seemed that a few of the many services that you and your team offered had been just too good to be true. Well, as I mentioned to you at the end of the conference, I heard it time and again from the veteran FFT members that you can do everything you say and have worked with them to achieve. Actually, it appears that you've understated your abilities, and case in point, at the workshop, you clearly over-delivered. Although I would have grasped more if I had more FFT material under my belt, I'd tell you the workshop is a slam dunk for convincing anyone who may be on the fence about whether or not being a member is worth the cost. And then he actually went into the mastermind session. Thank you for the unexpected mastermind session with your individuals. Hands-on analysis and advice for each of us in turn. I learned at least as much from helping the others as I did specifically helping me. Thank you for sending the bonus PDFs that we talked about. I've worked through them all, and I'm in the process of crystallizing it in my understanding. So that was from Brian out of Norfolk, Nebraska. So look, I know my time's pretty valuable when I'm meeting with one-on-one. So yeah, it's with 13 people. So maybe we divide that up, throw that as some additional value. I mean, I'm just thinking about what if you did a CRO and it saved you even just $100 a month? That's $1,200 a year in savings. I got to make this the most rain-making investment deal for you, more money. I want to make sure you feel that it's incredibly generous as we're embarking on a relationship together, and I want it to be a lifetime relationship. I want you to be one of the million to get to economic independence. And I know a lot of times you business owners offer matches to incentivize employees to build a retirement, or you know, a lot of people get offered matches when they have things like 401ks or RSPs. So that's what I want to do. I want to match you tonight. We've talked about over $1,900 in total value, but I don't want you to write a check for that. I want you to invest $397, and we'll cover the rest in value, in tools, in bonuses, and doing everything I can. So the question is, have I delivered on my promise tonight of giving you something meaty? And the other question is, how do you get this great deal? Well, We're going to put the link up there. You're going to look at this. You can look at the webinar slides, and you'll see it there, but hopefully a hyperlink in the chat or answer box. And look, there's a 30 days, no question asked, money-back guarantee. If you don't get 10 times the value from this after going through the course, I insist you request your money back. We're here to deliver value. That's what we're about, value creation. We want to deliver value. It's one of our core values. We can be picky about who we work with in the future and only want to work with those that we create the most tremendous value for. Try this risk-free. The only way that you lose is not receiving, not taking action now, because the law of diminishing interest is you get out there in life, the to-do list gets bigger, you try to navigate this on your own, and there's people that end up not taking advantage after a webinar, like this guy Matt, who didn't make a switch when we talked about how to change liability coverage, and then got in a car accident and cost his family $330,000. He immediately came and joined a bigger program when he walked directly into our office and threw a check down on there. So I really want to make sure that you don't have to have those painful moments where you realize you're not being extraordinary, you're being ordinary. I don't want you to see your finances overtake you or overcome you and put your business in a tough cash flow spot unnecessarily, where you're overpaying the government, where you don't have your war chest, where you don't have safety and stability. We know that that's important. We know what it means to be a business owner. I want to be of value. There's no catches here. There's no funny business. I really hope as you take action, because it's the first 13 people get in the mastermind, that I get to know you there. I get to see you. And I want to review what you get. You get my book. You get the step-by-step curriculum for wealth process, which we go into the 5 components to create economic independence. Number 1, recover cash flow. We have 5 different segments on that. Punchy, direct videos to the point. We then go into strategically engineering wealth, because if you don't have a plan, someone else is going to sell you theirs, and it's about how you get your plan so that you don't make mistakes. Third is accelerating investment income. The banks are good at it. Institutions are good at it. Business owners, when it comes to their investments, usually get robbed there. We want to put that money in your pocket. The fourth thing is scale business revenue. Your business is your greatest asset. 91% of people have $5 million net worth or greater. It's because they did it through a business. So stop wasting your time putting money in risky ventures and mutual funds where people get fees whether you make money or not, and make it in the right way. And the fifth is live the life you love. That means make it count. How do you create the right legacy? How do you preserve and protect it? Because this is an expression of my legacy. It wasn't about continuing to live my life for someone else. It wasn't about me getting stuck and overwhelmed. It was about getting my finances handled in order, protected, ready to go, and then I can swing for the fences in my business. So you'll see the links. You'll see everything that we've talked about here. You can take advantage of it. You can improve your life right away. We got a whole bunch of yeses in the question box, which I really appreciate. We got people that said, thanks a million. We got people that said, this is effing awesome. That was really, hey, that's cool. You know, we had some people say they heard about this a long time ago, even learned about it, but tonight was the reminder that they needed on exactly what they need to do. So we have, you know, people that say great stuff about this. And I guess, you know, people that have said great stuff that we've worked with, I'll kind of talk about this guy, Jason. He says, thanks to Freedom Fast Track, best year in 99 years. I thought 2013 couldn't be topped, and that's our top program, by the way, Freedom Fast Track. In 2014, we made $480,000 more than 2013. Well, and that's totally amazing. I worked 52 days less. I finally have some financial peace. Made a not-so-intelligent decision to launch my own label supplement company because cash flow issues before I met you, and now it's been recovered. The system allowed me the courage to go out and try something out of my comfort zone. Also got my assets protected. Got my estate plan done. How can I repay you, Garrett? Probably can't, but here's what I'm doing. Every chance I get, when people ask why things are going well, I tell them, G-Money hooked me up. G-Money is Garrett Gunderson. Okay, not quite what I say, but I always tell people Freedom Fast Track was transformational to me. And then he starts talking about some of the people we introduced him to. He says, here's the deal. The best business decision I ever made is working with Garrett. I prop you up all the time. It's my friends who would work with you. Their lives would be so much better. My goal is to tell 100 people about Freedom Fast Track this year in Wealth Factory. I know I'll hit the goal because, one, my practice keeps exploding and people want to know why. I got a book coming out this year called Vitamin H, Vitamin Hope. I'm teaching 4 seminars this year. I hope these guys will go through the amazing experience I've had with you and your company. Here's what's so amazing. It's not only the financial decision, investing, insurance planning, estate planning that was amazing, absolutely worth it. That's pennies compared to the many connections and relationships that I attribute to you. Can't thank you enough. So the free gift that everybody waited for, we're clicking that in there right now. Go ahead and check the box. Go ahead and check I think it's in the chat box. or the answer box. Let's see. Yes, it is in the chat box. You'll see the link. That is your gift. Thanks for attending. Thanks for staying with us. And right now, I am willing to answer questions that come in. And so anyone that has any questions, I would be happy to respond. And I'm going to give Mike a chance to talk, since I've been passionately going about what we're up to, and really hope that you guys take advantage of it. And you know, it's been a lot of fun sharing this information with you tonight.
Garrett, man, I know people are totally engaged in this. We still have hundreds and hundreds of people on the line who stayed with you well over the amount of time that we had expected this to take. So I want to thank you for providing all that information and going the extra mile. And please, you know, don't leave yet, because Garrett's going to personally answer your questions right now. But you know, one quick point is when I coach practice. Yes.
I totally, sorry to interrupt, but I literally just got a text, and the text says, gee, thanks for exposing me to cost seg. Just wrote off $37,000 on my new building, and then it's an emoji with a nux. So anyway, that's from Che. Literally,
awesome.
Just got a text with that.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the power of what you do. It changes people's lives. I know that because it changed my life. You rock. The program rocks. I know this, and to come in at this level, I didn't have this opportunity. You know, the only level I had to come in at was at the $25,000 level. So for them to get the opportunity to get started in the process for $397, are you kidding? That's great. That's a tremendous offer. I know they appreciate it. And I want to make a coaching point, Garrett, is that when I coach, you know, I always recommend and I always remind my people that, you know, the key to success in small business is implementation. And the key to implementation is immediate action. We find that those people who take immediate action get the very best results. And in fact, the people who don't take action after a coaching call or after a consultation or after a teleclass or a webinar, you know, what we find is if they don't take immediate action, they don't get any results at all. They never take action. You know, even if they have the best intent. So I'm going to strongly recommend and urge each and every one of you on this line tonight to take action now. You've learned a ton of content, a ton of information. Get started. And when it works for you, which I know it will, it's going to be the easiest path for you to build true wellness in your life and bring you peace of mind. So get going, get started. Garrett, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and especially for doing the offer. It rocked. The information rocked. You just done a tremendous job, and I appreciate it, and you always do. And I know everyone on the line appreciates it. So let's see if we can't, for those people who want to stay on the line, let's see if we can't answer some questions for them.
Well, just got open the question box, and we have over 90 questions. So thanks everyone for that. Here's the good news. We are going to have our specialists, whether that's Logan, whether that's Nate, maybe even Mike on a couple of them. We're going to have people reach out and engage with you and help answer these questions. I mean, a lot of you, you know, put in text reminders. You want to get a text. I mean, we've got ways to get connected with you. You put your email in there. We'd be happy to get through this because there's some great questions. You know, how do you create your first million? You know, where should undergrads look to grow their money? How do you go from your first job or paycheck to paycheck to investing? What are some good investment options in personal finance and savings? How do I get and stay out of debt? How do we maximize? Let's see, what is the best place to put emergency money? I mean, there are so many good questions on here. Which, by the way, emergency money. It's good to have a little bit of precious metals in a safe, some cash in a safe, a little bit in a bank, but as you start to grow, I talked about a captive insurance agency where you can put money away pre-tax, take it out capital gains, and have things totally protected. There's so many, there's so many things, but man, this is pretty awesome as far as the response and the number of questions. That what I'm going to do, because it's already an hour and a half into this, is because you asked questions ahead of time, you asked questions tonight, we'll make sure to get some personal attention to answering a lot of these and kind of get with you. So I can't wait to meet a lot of you guys in person. I'm excited for the first 13 that are going to do the mastermind with me in the virtual mastermind. Hopefully you enjoyed the stories and the insights, and that you go out there and do something about it. And any last comments from you, Mike?
No, I have to tell you, I love and appreciate everything you do. You change people's lives. I want people to take this seriously because it'll impact their lives. So Thanks everybody for spending their evening with us. We know you're investing in your life and in yourself to make yourself better. And so, Garrett, I appreciate another great webinar with you.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you carving out time for this, and sharing your own personal stories and the things that you've gone through. And I thought you did a great job with the questions that you asked. And once again, really appreciate everybody for investing their time. Look for the responses, coordinate with our team as we go out there and give you answers. And then remember, you've got the link that you can go to, wealthfactory.com/CFW, as in Curriculum for Wealth discount. wealthfactory.com/CFW discount. Check it out, take action. It's either now or get lost in the abyss of time and space that sucks away life, and that's called Parkinson's Law. As your income goes up, if you don't have infrastructure to capture that, then your expenses will rise to meet or exceed that increase. If you don't take advantage of something in front of you, then time will evaporate it, because if you give someone something to do on Friday by 5, they start working on it Friday at 4:30. So right now is that opportunity. This you'll see there's only a certain amount of time where we leave this up with all the bonuses, and some of those bonuses you can't get anywhere else other than here tonight. So I look forward to adding value to your life, and hope you have a great evening.